He arrived in Salon-de-Provence in 1547. In between, he has been traveling a lot. He arrived here because he was very famous, and he was called in Arles and Aix-en-Provence to fight the plague. And then he arrived in Salon and got married with a lady called Anne Ponsard, and he got 6 children with her. So they built a house, the one you will see later on, and they enjoyed being here because it was not very far from Saint-Rémy, where Nostradamus was born. So it was Provence, you know, the heart of the Provence. And he spent 19 years here. And he started writing in 1551 the first almanac with the first prophecies, and then started to write the book, the prophecies, which are so famous all around the world. So you know, Catherine de Médicis knew Michel de Nostradamus. She had heard about him for a long time. And when he started to write his prophecies, his almanac, she wanted to meet him. So Michel de Nostradamus was invited in Paris in 1555 in order to meet the Queen. She was very anxious about the future of her dynasty. She wanted to know what will happen with her children. So he went to Paris and came back to Provence. And few years later, she decided to come and visit him in this town, in this city. You know, war between Catholic and Protestant, and she wanted to reunify the country around the king. So she decided to stop here, and she met the Nostradamus, and she presented the young king and also the future Henry IV, Henri IV. He was very afraid about predicting the death of Henry II. You know that he was the king of France, so he didn't really tell it to the queen. He wrote it, and we discovered the right prophecy afterwards. Henry II died in 1559, exactly the way he predicted it, but he didn't want to tell it to the Queen. Well, Catherine of Medicine was a very ambivalent person, very curious person. She was surrounded by people who were involved in occultism. And so I'm nearly sure that she protected Nostradamus because they had a real friendship. Well, she was the queen and he was only an advisor and a doctor. But however, she was impressed by this person because he has a very strong charisma. He had a strong character and a strong temperament, and he could see what nobody else could see. He could see the future. Nostradamus was issued from a Jewish family, the family had to convert itself to Catholicism under Louis XII, and you know that Jewish people were persecuted in the past. So that's the reason why Nostradamus was very cautious with what he told, what he did. But, however, he was very curious of everything. And he met a lot of people, including some Protestants. He used to sit on a tripod in front on a basin filled with water. He removes the surface moved a candle above the water, and he saw images just coming to him. That's the first way. And then, looking at the sky, looking the planets, the conjunction of planets, and the events related to these conjunctions. And then, well, the conjunctions of planets will be the same in the future, about the same events will happen, will occur. That's the two ways he was proceeding in order to foresee, to forecast what will be the future. 3797. It doesn't mean that it will be the end of the earth, but just that he died before predicting further later on. But the history is a continual renewal of the same causes and effects. So if you look at the history as Nostradamus did, you can prevent us from making the same faults that people did in the past and build a better life.
So here we are in the house of Nostradamus in Salon-de-Provence, and nowadays the house has a presentation as a museum, but we also have a documentation center when we have an original document like this edition of the prophecies I'm going to show you. Well, you can see the book. At the beginning of the book we have Nostradamus explaining how he wrote the prophecies, because he believed it was a divine inspiration. And here you can see some of the prophecies. He wrote this book in order to predict, but not only the future. He said it was about past time, present and future. And it was willingly in a very difficult language. You cannot really translate the prophecies when you read them. It's really an obscure words, obscure text. It's not saying that day at that time this will happen. Nostradamus wrote the prophecies here in Salon from 1550 about it, and it was a printed book, and the print helped it make Nostradamus really famous in Europe, because it was printed also in Germany, in Italy, in England also. I had little knowledge of the astrology, but mostly he was a doctor, and most of his career he was what we call médecin ambulant, which is he was traveling around France in order to heal people with plants and with medicine. For instance, he was a doctor for the plague in Aix-en-Provence, and he wrote a book about the plague and how to cure it. In the prophecies we have a lot of animals, a lot of generic places that are used. For instance, you can see there are many lions, many eagles, so it can be linked to every powerful people. So it could be a king, it could be Napoleon, and it's really easy to link this in order to make the prophecy more generic. And there is also no specific time, date, so it's really difficult to know when or why this will happen.